All right, welcome in the Big Hitters Only. We are live now, Sunday, March 16th, Celestial Sunday at 8:02 p.m. We have Mike Hardison, Neil Pierre-Louis, Spenser Dalton. This is Mike's first in a while, and Neil's second, and Spencer's been a regular with us throughout the basketball season. The Tar Heels are dancing. They sneak into the tournament with an 11th seed. They will be playing San Diego State in Dayton on Tuesday night, which I thought they'd be playing Wednesday. They're playing Tuesday night. The late game, I think, is what is expected. And if they win that, they will play Ole Miss on Friday in Milwaukee in the South region. We're going to react here, talk about how and why UNC got in, personal reactions, break down a little bit of the ACC tournament games that we haven't talked about yet, get into UNC's path in the NCAA tournament. And I also want to talk to, and all y'all don't have to stay on for this, I'm going to talk a little coaching carousel stuff, just something I'm really interested in at the end of the show. So let's go first to Mike. Mike, when you saw the Tar Heels get in, it was early in the show. It was like, I think the second or third matchup announced. I think it was Auburn 1 seed, and then it came to Carolina. What was your initial reaction?
I think much like everyone else in the Carolina fan base, I was surprised. I had kind of prepared myself for the worst. I had spent most of the day digging into the bracketology. Was big, had become a disciple of the wins above bubble, and was ready to, spread the good word and get ready to fight people on the internet about why Xavier and Indiana were undeserving compared to Carolina. But it was shock and happy surprise. I think you can hold two emotions, and I think it's important, as we kind of approach this, to be very excited for the team, be very excited that that was not RJ Davis's last game, that Jalen Withers did not cost this team a berth in the NCAA tournament, that we get to go into what I find the most exciting tournament in sports and have a rooting interest, right? I think that's awesome. I think simultaneously you can take a step back and be like, I never want to be on the bubble again, and that's not the Carolina standard. So I just want to make sure everyone's able to kind of take a breath, be very excited, and let's give it a day before we start talking negatively about everything else. I was pumped. I was surprised. I'm already worried about San Diego State, but we'll get into that in a second.
Neil, what was your reaction?
Yeah,
Where
just
were
like
you?
Michael said, I'm back in my apartment. Obviously it's St. Patrick's Day weekend, so a lot of festivities going on here in Boston. But a couple of my state friends are actually in the living room right now, and they put it on, and obviously they saw me crash out when we lost that game against Duke. And then, like Michael said, I was expecting the worst, like it was gonna be bad, and then I saw Auburn was the number one overall seed. I was like, all right, that's not a great start for us. Like I thought Duke deserved that with Auburn losing 3 out of 4 of their last games. And then I saw Louisville as the 8th seed, and I was like, UNC's about to be next four out. Like it's not even a question of last four. Like this is bad. And so I just like go on my phone, and my friend Anthony is sitting next to me. He just taps me on the shoulder. He's like, look, look. And I see it's like San Diego State UNC. And I just start screaming. I'm like, there's no way this is happening. So yeah, like I'm super excited. Obviously, you know, we were on the bubble kind of in 2023. I think it was a lot different where I think we needed an absolute miracle to make that tournament. But this kind of felt similar. It's like, I mean, watching but I was very surprised to see it that early, and that was great for the anxiety. I think if that had been revealed in the last region, like I don't know, it
Yeah,
would have sucked a lot. So
yeah. Spencer, what you got?
Similar to the other guys, I mean, I was very prepared to be sitting there for like 30 minutes waiting until the last like four teams get announced of the final quadrant of the bracket. And, like what, 3 minutes into the show, I feel like North Carolina gets announced, and I let out an audible yell, just like Neil said he did. So I was excited. I mean, I have a lot of feelings about how we got there and everything like that. But like Michael said, like we got to be excited we're here. We got to be excited that our guys
Yeah.
like RJ Davis get another shot. I'm excited.
Yeah,
Nothing like March Madness.
I think the general consensus about UNC fans, like rational, intelligent UNC fans, that they weren't going to make it. Like if you look at all the first in, first out, been tracking it for a couple weeks. Obviously, my job, we've been writing articles about it, and then just losing to Duke again, 0-3 against Duke, 1-12 in quad one wins, like it just wasn't there. And so I'm wondering, like, what changed? I'm sure y'all watched some of the coverage. They beat out Indiana, West Virginia, um, Ohio State to get in. Like, Mike, your research, like, why did UNC get in? Like, what was deserving? And the funny thing, like, state fans are pissed. The Bubba conspiracies, I'm sure West Virginia. I feel like West Virginia was like one of the teams that was supposed to be in. I'm sure they're pissed. You got some rabid fan bases, Indiana, that are pissed about UNC getting in. It's very funny. Mike, why did UNC get in? Why were they deserving? What were the numbers you've been seeing? The WOB. I didn't know what WOB was today. I heard WOB for the first time today.
Yeah, Bart Torvik, disciple, loyal since day one. But no, I mean, they got in because of wins above bubble. And, I have some grasp. I think probably others can speak better to it. But my understanding is where the net system is a little bit flawed is the fact that 1 through 25, 1 through 50, 1 through 75 are seemingly arbitrary cutoffs. And if you look at some of these, they start even diving into the Q1A, Q1B type wins because they recognize that this, like, I think beating Penn State, which is a 16 and 15 team on the road, is technically a Q1 win. If you beat Santa Clara on the road, it's a Q1 win. And I think when you compare that to the Q1 opportunities that North Carolina had this year, you would be perplexed that they're even in the same category, right? Like, I think more than like a significant portion of our Q1 schedule was either neutral or away. We played, a significant number of the top 1 and 2 seeds. And you look at some of these SEC and Big Ten and maybe some lower conference teams that got Q1 opportunities that just aren't on the same level. So the wins above bubble metric, from my understanding, basically kind of takes that into account. And it gets away with the kind of rolling, it makes it more of like a rolling average and takes into account like how good an actual team is, as opposed to just saying, hey, they're in the top 25 in net, so therefore it's a Q1 win.
So. Yeah, I mean, I'm never gonna be a numbers guy and diving deep into that, but UNC's net was high, 1-12 in quad one wins. But like you said, they were playing like very good quad one teams. Is that accurate? Like Duke 3 times, Michigan State, Louisville, Clemson. All yeah. I think also like I don't know if this had a factor, but UNC was playing really well down the stretch, and it's like the eye test, right? Like they won 6 straight. I guess they won 8 straight. And then lost to Duke, so they were 8-1 in their last 9. They're playing well. Their offense was so much improved. Rebounding is better. The new lineup, like it was a vibes wise, and like how they're playing right now with the eye test, maybe a factor. Neil, any thoughts on why UNC got in? And dive in here, guys. Like mix it up.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I like someone said this earlier. We're a tournament team with not the tournament resume, and I kind of go with that.
Yeah.
Like I'm glad we made it, and I really think, like right the net, like we were there, and I totally agree. The wins above bubble, like Q1 wins are not the same. Like people get mad when you say that, but it's just simply not true. Like we played Florida, Duke 3 times, Auburn. Like these games are very different than like Santa Clara away, but I don't. We had like our opportunities were there, and I was. I'm so glad we made it because we were up in some of these games. Like Florida was the big one I look at where I mean you won that game. This isn't even like a question. Michigan State, like we're in it. It's tough. So I don't know. I feel like we didn't deserve it in that sense, but we're here, and I'm not. Like I said, I don't care. Like
Yeah.
so.
To that point, like
I did say though, funny enough, February 17th, I posted this on Twitter, but I was DMing a friend and I was like, he's a Duke fan, so he was, giving me a lot of shit about the game. And I was like, I think we had just lost to Clemson, and I was like, if we go 6-7, or winning 6 out of our last 7, but the loss is against Duke, losing the ACC semifinals, we'll make it. We did that, and I had no faith. But weirdly enough, then I was so convinced. I was like, if we just do that, like we'll make the tournament. So
Yeah.
maybe there was something in my intuition there. The way the field was looking, I was like, that's all we need to do. And I guess I was right. That was all we needed to do. So
Mike.
I think there's there's a little bit of recency bias almost. Like teams that play well in the final third of the season are, at least from what I can gather over many years of watching college basketball, like they're looked upon more favorably by the selection committee than a team that plays great in the first third of the season or the middle third of the season, and then again, a team that plays great in the final third. So like Carolina played great. We had like 10 games and we only looked bad in like for one half, and then the first half of the Duke game and the final game at home against Duke. So it's like we played 10 great games to end the season. So, that's
Yeah.
again kind of looked upon favorably.
It's really hard, and I know Cooper Flag was out, but people forget that we were leading by 6 in the second half at home against Duke with a healthy Cooper
Yeah.
Flag. It's really
Yeah.
hard, as much as I know the committee doesn't do the eye test, right? It's really hard to look at a team that seemingly is as hot, as North Carolina. You have your number 2 overall seed basically going down to the wire. I know they ended up winning by double digits against us at home, but that game was way more competitive than final box score showed, and was one of the most viewed, games of the college basketball season. So they had a lot of eyes on that. Kind of to your point, Neil, about like the tournament team without necessarily the resume. Games that stick out in my mind are, Allen Fieldhouse having, the late lead there, going to overtime with Michigan State, who's a 2 seed, being neck and neck with Duke in 2 out of the last 3 games, really, who's your, number 1 ranked AP team, number 2 overall, seed in the tournament. And so it's one of those things where I think having that identity and that kind of, image of your team combined with the advanced metrics, which all favored Carolina over Xavier, over Texas, over Indiana, I'm sure everyone's seen that on social media the last couple days. I feel like that was the kind of forcing, factor. And I will say this: shout out to the Memphis Tigers. They don't win today. We are not in the tournament. That was confirmed. Yeah. So I feel like they're of a
They mentioned that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, outside of the losses the Duke took to Kansas, Kentucky, Clemson, like UNC probably played them the toughest in that last game of the ACC tournament, and for a good portion of the game in Chapel Hill. So maybe they took that into account too. Quickly, we're going to talk a little about the ACC tournament. I'll talk about our sponsor, Delta Spirits. DrinkDeltaSpirits.com, promo code BHO10, a THC based beverage, relaxing alcohol substitute, a bunch of different flavors. I had some friends try this weekend. I mean, they do the trick if you're into THC stuff. DrinkDeltaSpirits.com, BHO10. They come in this is like a liquor substitute too. So we've got some purchase from that, but keep it rolling in. DrinkDeltaSpirits.com. Use our promo code BHO10. All right, quickly, since we didn't do a pod from the ACC tournament, just a little burned out from, I think we did 3 the week before. I want to talk quickly about just general thoughts about ACC tournament. I mean, that Duke game was wild. Just another chapter. That's going to be obviously down to the conversation. Unbelievable game. The comeback. It was kind of crazy. I don't know what y'all thought, but it was Spenser, you said you turned it off. It was 24 points, 26 points. And then it was so gradual how UNC got back in. All of a sudden you're like, man, it's single digits. It's like, oh, they have a shot. They kept making baskets. Almost kind of blocked that game out. But then the foot fault, the lane violation by Jalen Withers on the Van Allen Lubin free throw was just another chapter of an insane rivalry game without Cooper Flag and without Malik Brown. It was a tale of 2 halves. Mike, what did you think about that game? What were your initial thoughts? I got to look back at the stats. I forgot who even played really well to get UNC back into it.
Yeah, I mean, it was Van Allen Lubin. Ellie Cadeau had an excellent game. That game, I was out. I was invited by friends at Darden to go watch at a bar. We went out. My fiance and I did. We left at half because I basically went nonverbal in anger and frustration and just wasn't having a good time. So my fiance and I came home. We have a mantra in our household, which is basketball's not going to hurt our feelings. We're not going to let basketball hurt our feelings because I take it personally, not we. But we kept the game on, and the game just kind of kept slowly moving more and more in our direction. I don't know about how y'all felt, but in the past, we've had these kind of comebacks because we put ourselves in this hole. And it feels like we take the lead, and then we lose it. And so in my mind, I was like, we need to time this game just right so we take the lead in that 30 seconds to a minute, that we have the lead in those games like Michigan State, Kansas, a couple others. We hold on to it, and that's the end of game. Then we almost got there. I feel like if that game goes on for another minute and a half, 2 minutes, we win that game. I think the overall takeaway from the ACC tournament that is a positive for North Carolina is the emergence of Van Allen Lubin as the big that we've been wanting all season. I really hope I can continue to say that. I know San Diego State is a very physical, very big team. Typically speaking, they've got a 5, and we'll talk about more about later, that might be coming back from injury. That's 7 feet, so that might pose problems. But Van Allen Lubin played out of his mind. Minus the missed free throw to start. The first two there. Elliot Cadeau had a really good game. I feel like this was Elliot's best game against that kind of elite tier competition. I think my biggest knock on Elliott over the past few years is that in elite level games, he tends to get kind of cute with the ball, maybe doesn't make the best decisions, and it almost feels like he doesn't recognize who he's playing. That was not the case this game. I thought in the second half in particular, he played out of his mind. The takeaway from the game for me overall, though, from a macro standpoint, I'm really frustrated with the inconsistency of the team. You are seeing a team that outscored Duke by what? 24 points in the second half, basically. Who's the number 2 overall seed? There's no reason they can't continue that effort from start to finish. So, I think I mentioned it on social media. The knock on Hubert Davis and the coaching staff is not that they can't get their team to play well, or they can't get their team to dig deep. It's enforcing that standard for 40 minutes of basketball. If they can do that, if they can kind of keep it at that elite level, there's not a team out there, other than maybe Alabama when they're hot or Auburn when they're hot, that this team can't compete with. So I'm interested to see if maybe this flips a little bit of a switch.
Yeah, I think takeaway is a good way to look at this game. I completely blocked it I turned it off right after that ending. But I do agree the last 3 games, and obviously since the lineup change, really, Van Allen Lubin has been so consistent. Just good rebounding and putbacks and just catching dump offs and alley-oops. He's been that big man UNC's needed. If he was 2 inches taller, he'd be second half, second team All ACC in terms of his play. Cadeau hit 3 threes, the only threes UNC hit. I did not realize UNC only hit 3 threes in that game. That was very surprising.
I was gonna say in the second half, I'm so shocked that we got pretty much all of our points not from the perimeter. Obviously no flag made a huge difference in that, but I was saying going into that game, I think a lot of UNC fans, especially on Twitter, were oh, no Cooper flag, we got this. And I'm this team, I still think they're capable of winning a championship without him. They're so deep, they're so good, and they proved that in the first half. That was one of the most frustrating halves I've ever watched. Y'all, Michael, you mentioned you left I left the bar. I was at the UNC bar here. We just went home. It was tough, but yeah, I don't know that Lubin. I was saying, we're gonna look back at that late game, maybe in the Duke game. He obviously didn't get the outcome he wanted, but and say, where were you when he turned into prime Shaq for 2 minutes? He was just ridiculous. So yeah, I don't know. It was definitely such a tough ending, and I definitely crashed out during that lane violation. But
dude,
I
so
mentioned
bizarre.
this, we missed free throws. We were down 20 points. Obviously in the moment, that's what you're going to blame. But there were so many other factors that lost us that game. So I say this too, that would have been to tie the game, and I'm sure we all know as long-term UNC fans, 4 seconds is a lot of time for the other team to go down and make a basket.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we weren't even guaranteed to win or get overtime. So
Van Allen Lubin's a Haitian, just like you, right, Neil?
yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Little French-Haitian connection. Spenser, going to you quickly on just your general reactions to the ACC tournament. But, the Jalen Withers thing was brutal to watch. I think also if Lubin had missed both free throws, that would have been that would have been brutal too. I don't know. I was like, damn, I hope Lubin at least makes one here, because that's just horrible as well. Could have been 2 goats there. Jalen kind of took away all the attention from Lubin potentially missing that. Spenser, your initial takeaway from the ACC tournament, who you think stepped up, what do you like to see from that game moving forward, and then we'll move on to the bracket.
Duke game aside, I think everybody kind of stepped up a little bit. A rising tide, everybody played pretty well. At times you guys make mistakes or whatever, but we played really good basketball, beat the pants off of Notre Dame, who played us close earlier in the season, beat Wake Forest, that has been our kryptonite a little bit, at least on the road the last couple of years. I said to a buddy, like we were texting during the game. I was like, we need to take the lead against Wake Forest because it was back and forth for a long time. I was like, we need to take this lead at like 2 or 3 minutes because if we've got a 5-point lead with 5 minutes to go, we're going to give it away. We've coughed up for 4 years of Hubert Davis teams, we've coughed up 5 to 8 point leads in the final 5 to 7 minutes of the game. Countless times, I feel like. So, and that's exactly what we did. We took a lead with 2 or 3 minutes to go, and then, we end up winning by 8 or 9, something like that. So I was and then you hate for like a guy to get injured or anything, but I'm like, okay, man, well, I guess the Heels kind of got a shot now. Like, we got a shot. We can beat him. Like, he was such a problem, Cooper Flag, such a problem for us because we had nobody who can defend it. Drake Powell, as good of defense as he played throughout the second half of the season, like, Flag was just taller and faster than him, I think, or at least more. I don't know. He just had more moves, like more able to slice and dice. And so, you lose a close one to Duke. I turned it off at halftime. I let basketball hurt my feelings in my house big time. I'm screaming at the TV. If anything, if we could like really zoom out a little bit, I think doing this podcast has created a little bit more objectivity in my viewing of Carolina basketball because I have to kind of try to keep my analysis hat on a little bit. Whereas like in past years, I'm like screaming in the couch cushions. I'm like, practically breaking glasses and stuff. I'm losing it, and I was kind of losing it in the first half. I lost my cool. And then so I'm like watching TV in the back room, and my fiance comes in and says they lost on a lane violation, and I'm like, what? And then so I look it up on Twitter, and I was in disbelief. I simply could not fathom what happened. And like in my entire life of playing and watching basketball, I don't know if I've ever even seen someone fake going into the lane. Like, and I think Withers said he was trying to time it, or it was like a fake or something like that.
It seemed like the Duke player was like baiting him a little bit by arm jostling him. That's what I thought.
Yeah. Lane violations, generally speaking, are accidents. You lose your balance. You aren't paying attention. You the guy's got a weird free throw and he double clutches and you're like, oh crap, like you fall into the lane or something like that.
Yeah.
That's what happened. Withers, it looked halfway intentional. So again, just like the strangest thing. And I'm not here to dog on him. I'm just saying beyond strange. And so, again, I think we take that second half. We take some good performances late in the season. We can say, hey, we've got the stuff to win a few games in the NCAA tournament. We've got the stuff. You have to believe, man. That's all you can do.
Setting it up for me very well. All right, I'm going to give you a quick rundown. I was at the ACC tournament for a lot of it, so I'm going to give you my quick thoughts, and then we'll jump into this bracket here. Look at your bracket, get it out. We'll talk a couple games into it. I thought the Wake win, first of all, the Notre Dame game, seeing Jalen Withers hit 7 threes to set an ACC tournament single game record was unbelievable. Courtside for that one, right behind the UNC bench. If you ever have a chance to sit courtside at a game like any game, it's such a different experience than watching it, lower level or upper level, obviously. But it's the players are so big, you can hear everything from the coaches. That's the coolest thing. Cussing, getting after the refs, being behind the bench is unreal. You get a lot at Duke. Sitting at the Duke media thing, but AC tournament, they give us some people get seats. I had to steal Brendan Mark's seat for that game. That was unreal. I thought the Wake win was a tough, gritty, pounded out win that was valuable, will be valuable moving forward. It's like UNC's played that way a lot in the past where they've made plays late. We haven't seen that a lot this year, but they had 2 defensive stops. Vidal and Lubin had 2 big blocks. He had 2 big dunks. RJ hit a clutch 3, and UNC made the play at the right time to pull away, create a cushion, and kind of win, comfortably given the setting there. So that was good to see.
Yeah.
And then I was there for Cooper Flag's injury. So obviously this is mostly a UNC podcast, but I was working for CBS. They're like, dude, you got to go get content. You got to see what you can find on Cooper. So I went back there and saw him in the wheelchair. What a crazy optics to put him in a wheelchair. I understand why, because it's got to be a bitch to hobble or get on crutches, but the optics of like this, All-American, National Player of the Year, future #1 draft pick in a wheelchair, it's like such a bad look. Like, never put me in a wheelchair. It changes how
Yeah.
people perceive you. But I was trying to find where he was, and I was like, all right, where's Duke locker? And I find him. I went behind into the bowels of the Spectrum Center. And all of a sudden, he comes out of the X-ray room. And I was like, shit. Turned my camera on, and it was like filming him. They're like, no photos, no photos. Then I took a photo of I put it on Twitter, photo of the X-ray room and photo of the X-ray like bed. It was like bizarre. But the photo was already up of him in the wheelchair. I had no idea they even showed it on ESPN. So that was a kind of a surreal moment. But I mean, he's gonna be a great NBA player. So it's kind of a cool thing. And then I did not stay for the UNC Duke game. I came home on Friday, just because, like I said, well, I haven't mentioned this, but this is like the fiance podcast when us three get together. Sorry, Neil. We're all three engaged. We're all three fiancés. It's kind of a unique perspective. We should maybe do a whole podcast on wedding planning. We had a tasting today, so it's it's probably a pretty stressful situation. Anyway, all right, that's all I got in the ACC notebook there. Good to see all. It's a great event. I hope to go to it for like the majority of my life, even if I'm not in the media. All right, let's look at the bracket, boys. UNC plays San Diego State, which made it to the Final Four. What, 2 years ago? 3 years ago?
Different team though.
I think they have the same coach. I think they made it to the same year that FAU made it. They play North Carolina, San Diego State on Tuesday in Dayton. UNC's never been to the play-in game. And this is the highest seed UNC's been ever since they started doing seeds in 1979. And then if they win, they'll play Ole Miss, a 22-11 Ole Miss team on Friday in Milwaukee. I don't watch much ball outside of UNC and some ACC stuff. I don't know if y'all have any deep thoughts on San Diego State or Ole Miss, but my initial thought is that I would be pissed if I was an Ole Miss fan to catch UNC, like an 11 seed UNC team. I'd kind of be pissed if I was Michigan State to see UNC again in this bracket, especially considering the lack of success Tom Izzo's had against UNC. Like, UNC's crushed Michigan State in the tournament. If UNC was to beat Ole Miss, they would play Iowa State, a 24-9 Iowa State team out of the Big 12. Y'all jump in. I don't know where you want to take this, but I think
kind of funny looking at records. Like, we're an 11 seed in the play-in game with what is it, 22 and 13? 22 and 13 record. 6 seed Ole Miss, 22 and 11. 7 seed Marquette, 23 and 10. We've got the same type of record as a lot of these teams that are ranked, that are seeded like significantly higher. I know, yeah, ACC sucks and all of this and everything. And side note, I think there's some weird sort of mental thing. I saw some of those bubble teams, Indiana, whoever else got left out, 19 wins. Yeah. There's something sort of arbitrary, subconscious, whatever you want to call it, about getting teams in to the NCAA tournament that don't have 20 wins versus teams that do, like in North Carolina's case with 22. I'm just saying, every little tiny thing played, I'm sure, of letting us get in. So, hey, man, let's go beat San Diego State and make some waves. You're right, dude. You're right.
One thing quickly, losing at San Diego State would be bad. That's how this could backfire.
Terrible.
All right, UNC got in. Everybody's hating on UNC, and then it's you go lose to people don't realize San Diego State is a pretty good team, but on paper, the casual, it kind of looks like you're losing to a pretty bad mid-major. So that you got to take care of business. Mike, you got anything?
Yeah. Okay. So quickly run down San Diego State. They are a pretty young team from what I'm tracking. Their big man is 7-footer Magoon Gwath, I believe. He's been out since late February. They said he's available for the tournament, but that might have been coach speak for the whole bubble thing. Guard play is pretty good. I don't think they shoot 3-pointers very well. They like to get most of their points interior, I believe. So physical team. It's going to really come down to whether we can stop them in the post, if we're not kind of bothered by their physical defense, and if we can hit our threes, to be honest. In terms of the rest of the bracket, I agree with you. I mean, if you look from a net perspective, we're significantly, all the advanced metrics, which whatever you want to assign value to them, you can. We should be a better team than San Diego State. I think we open as a 1.5 point favorite. I think the line's already 3.5 point favorite for Carolina. Ole Miss is in the mid 20 range for the net. We're in the mid 30s. So, again, that's not out for, that's not a massive upset. I imagine that line will be 5 or 6 points if we can get past San Diego State. But to your point, who's in our field here? Iowa State. They just announced that Keyshawn Gilbert, their second leading scorer, is out for the tournament. Right?
Let's go.
That doesn't hurt us to be in that that to be the 3 seed for us. Marquette, has struggled as of late. Michigan State, we took them to overtime in November. If you're going to be in any little mini region here or half the region, as a play-in game, I think you'd take this. Especially considering today we didn't think we were going to be playing in the tournament. So, it really depends upon what Carolina team shows up. Really depends if we're able to play consistent ball for 40 minutes. But you don't hate it at first glance.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Ole Miss,
Concur.
Ole Miss would be the second game. I mean, SEC, tough tested SEC team. Chris Beard's a great coach. I haven't seen them play once. Neil, I'll add this too. UNC has experience in the tournament. RJ Davis has been to a Final Four national championship game. They were in the tournament last year, so Seth Trimble has experience. Elliot Cadeau's experience, Jalen Washington, Vanilla Lubin. I'm not sure he's been so that helps stage. And I agree. If they make it to play Michigan State, I think there's a helpful mental thing with having played them before and knowing you can take them to the brink. Neil, you got anything on this? What stands out with UNC's path?
Not much. I did tweet though, they can't lose this game. They will be the most hated team for a good reason. Everyone is doubting us. Everyone says we shouldn't be in the tournament except us. And they've kind of put themselves in this position, and I think they know that. So I think they'll be ready to play. Like Michael mentioned, very physical team. Can't get in foul trouble. We've had some games where Elliott's picking up 2 fouls very early on. The and obviously a lot of that is not up to us. The weight game, I was losing my mind over the referees, but we none of this ticky tack bullshit. Play hard, but be very smart. So yeah, this is the game we have. Can't get in trouble. So,
Somewhat's
but to get
crazy.
past
It's in
that,
2 days. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, no, it's I don't think it's really hit me yet. That I thought it was Wednesday too. Tuesday is it's right there, but get past that game. I do feel good about playing Ole Miss. Obviously the SEC. I think in the past few years it has gotten I think at times very overrated for a good reason, but I think it's a legit conference this season, and I do think though part of it you know even though they're playing a lot of these teams in conference losing a lot of games, and I think that could play into that. Ole Miss hasn't had an insanely good success in the SEC as Auburn, Florida, these teams. So
Yeah.
kind of excited to see how that pans out, not just for us or San Diego State, but just a lot of the SEC teams that have made it. That kind of borderline, not French teams, but it's just so big. I don't really know how it's going to happen this year. So
A couple things. What Neil said. Some would argue UNC's better with Elliot Cadeau in foul trouble and on the bench. I know Spencer's been a noted Elliot Cadeau kind of
Come
hater.
on, man.
When he's on, he's on. But when he's bad, when he's turnover prone, he's bad. I just think UNC plays a lot better when you don't have 2 guards in there. And you mentioned your Twitter, Neil. I want to take a brief moment here. Let's get your Twitter unlocked. It's electric. Why is your Twitter locked? You're denying. No one locks their Twitter anymore. You're
I can
denying.
second this. It's hilarious, man.
You're
It's hilarious.
denying so
Good-
many people.
good
Just
content.
keep it PG-13 and ride with it. No one's gonna fire you. I know why you're locked. You're scared your employer seeing some of your drunk tweets, some of your I'm hammered tweets. And guys, remember Neil is 23 or 22, 23, so he is a lot younger than us. Let's get it. Talk through it real quickly.
yeah, it's tough. Funny enough, my
Sense
I'm
the
not sure if my
hesitation
coworkers will
immediately.
watch this, but when I was sort of back, I worked for the Red Sox front office, they knew about it before I like even interviewed and throughout the interview process. And like even knowing that, I definitely would want it to be private. I think if honestly, if I had like a just a tech job with, some company, like I definitely keep it open, but I think just, being in the front office and it's not the best look. Regardless if there's any correlation, if, let's say we're not having a great season and the front office employees, having these tweets. So I keep it private just because I have the right to do that, and private account, like I can tweet what I want. And I have my my analytics account, my research account, where you can get a little dose of my personality there, but that is pretty much academic
Sounds like
and
you need a
sports.
burner
Yeah.
So
account.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
if they don't like you because of how you are on Twitter, maybe you don't want to work for them.
No, don't force them.
Neil's Neil, big flex there. Front office, freaking Moneyball over here. All right, I think we've said enough on the route here. We'll probably do a pod. I'm not sure how the schedule's going to be this week, but we'll get a little more active with the reaction pods. Let's get a final four from all y'all, and then I want to talk a little coaching carousel. Anybody can hop off. I can just do a solo on the coaching carousel too. I'll do my final four quickly, so I'll steal the teams here. Let me pull up the bracket here. All right. Oops. Let me pull this. All right. I think, man, I'm a big chalk guy. I think the best way to win brackets is to go chalk. I'm going to go Auburn out of the South. I'm going to go, dude, I have a future on Florida winning the national championship, a gambling future. I'm going to go Florida out of the, is that East? West. Florida out of the West. All right. Let me move this over here. Sorry. Okay. With Houston. All right, I'll go Houston. I'm going to go all chalk. Houston and Duke. And I think Duke wins it all. Duke over Auburn, a rematch. I'm going all one seeds. Duke over Auburn. That gives you all a chance to pick some upsets here. I'll go Duke over Auburn. I think this Duke team, man, seeing them in person, they have all the pieces. Colin Knippel is so good. Sion James is a grown man. Like, he is such a good guard to have. You have, come on, Mallock. He's huge. He's only getting better. He was a really good player in the ACC tournament. And, of course, Cooper Flagg. I think they're stacked. And Auburn losing 3 straight here is a little concerning. Or 3 in the last couple. All right, Spenser, we'll go reverse. Spenser, your final four.
Auburn, Duke. I think Houston as well. The one where I'm maybe a little unsure
Florida.
of is this West one. Yeah, I mean, St. John's, they're pretty good, man. They play hard. They're tough. Shoot, UConn, dude. Like, UConn over Florida in the 8-9 game, like that could happen. So that's the main one where I've got a little bit of I'm not so sure, but I think Florida comes out. I think Florida beats Auburn. I think Duke beats Houston, and I think Auburn over Duke in the Natty.
Yeah, I also have UConn over Florida. My final
Wow.
four, I already made my bracket. I got Auburn, St. John's, Duke, Tennessee. And then I have Duke over St. John's, unfortunately. Yeah, that team, I think if they win, is one of the best Duke teams of all time. Like, they're just disgusting. Actually, Ross, I do have to hop off. These guys have been waiting for me.
Sure.
So,
Thanks, Neil.
but yeah, this was awesome. See y'all.
Yeah, man.
See-
See you, dude. Mike?
Jumping into my final four, I have Michigan State. I think, much like you guys have alluded to, I think Auburn is a little too has stumbled as of late, and so I don't really trust them up in the South. Going to be really interested to see. I don't think I think Michigan State is better than Iowa State at this time, especially the injury news. Kind of curious to see how the South plays out. I think of the different regions, I feel like the South has the most variance for who could end up in the Final Four, which hey bodes well if Carolina can get past this playing game. Down in the West, I actually have Florida. I think they're a really, really good team. I think they're hot right now. I do love St. John's. I honestly, if my mindset was if Carolina didn't make it, I'd probably be cheering for St. John's because I think it's fun. I think Florida takes care of UConn easily. I don't think this is UConn's year. I have Tennessee beating Clemson to get to the Final Four. I think the first one seed to fall is Houston. I think Gonzaga is a really tough draw for them. Even Georgia could pose issues for them if they get past Gonzaga. And then I have Duke. So Final Four is Michigan State, Florida, Duke, and Tennessee. And then I have Florida over Duke in the title game. I do think this Duke team is really, really good. The only reason why I wouldn't pick them for a national championship is I think they run into a couple teams that are pretty high variance. So I think Arizona and I think
Yep.
Alabama and even BYU, when they're really hot, are enough to beat that Duke team, especially if Cooper Flag is not necessarily at 100%, right? So not necessarily the Final Four weekends, but you're talking that first or second weekend, that Duke potential Arizona matchup in the Elite Eight in the Sweet 16 looks pretty enticing potentially. Give
yeah.
yourself one last shot at Duke. So
Yeah.
that's my early read on it.
I think
I
Alabama
think
could beat them. I
Really?
think Alabama, yeah, absolutely, man. Like their ceiling is unbelievable. Like we saw last year against Carolina, we saw, we've seen a few times this year. Like Auburn has experience. I think they probably have the physicality to contend with Duke. They certainly have the height. Yeah, Mark Sears isn't the biggest guy, but like Grant Nelson's big. They got all these like 6'8", 6'10", 11
Is Nelson
guys.
back for the tournament?
I didn't even know he got hurt. I didn't watch hardly any of the
he was
SEC.
he was hurt in the game against their last game.
Okay. Well,
you're not sure.
all right.
Yeah.
That aside, like if they're healthy, Alabama could absolutely beat Duke. They just outscore them, man. I mean, like you just run them to death. Like that's going to be maybe a more interesting region they thought. It's going to go one of two ways. Duke is going to just waltz their way into the Final Four.
Yep.
Or it's going to be chaos.
I'd be cheering for BYU if they were in another region because I think BYU could beat Bama, but I don't think they could beat Duke, whereas I do think Bama could beat Duke. I think that when Alabama is on, I think they are a force to be reckoned with. It's just that they're not on all the time. So.
Yeah. And Duke's got the inexperience. Like it showed in losses against Kansas and Kentucky late. Like it was Flag who's trying to do some spin move. I mean, despite everything, like there's still a lot of freshmen there that can catch up to you in late game scenarios on a big stage. All right, quickly here, guys. I love the coaching carousel. I don't know how y'all are into it, but I've always been intrigued by college football and college basketball coaching carousels. Florida State is already closed. They hired former alum. NBA player. What other jobs already closed? Another job is closed.
Miami.
Yeah. Miami closed. And Jay Lucas, the Duke assistant. So those are the two ACC jobs. But we have Indiana's open, Minnesota's open now, Iowa's open, Virginia, where Mike is in Charlottesville, and we have Villanova and NC. I mentioned NC State, right? NC State I've been locked into. So I'm going to break down. Y'all can ask me questions here. I'm going to break down who I think gets each job. I think we'll go with Virginia. I think Pitino has been mentioned there a lot. Richard Pitino out of New Mexico.
I've heard Ryan Odom.
Ryan Odom too. I think it makes a lot of sense. Ryan Odom.
People on campus are saying Odom is pretty likely. I know they interviewed 3 times, but I think it's going to be Odom.
Yeah, there's been some recent news, speaking with some of the insiders here at 24/7 Sports and CBS Sports, that it's not Pitino. Odom's at VCU. Where you are? Yeah.
No. Where is Odom? Yeah, he's VCU. At VCU.
He's at VCU, and he was at UMBC that beat Virginia as the number 16 seed. So kind of a cool thing there if that happens. NC State, they're locked in on Will Wade, which is, I think, would be a spectacular hire for them. A great hire for the ACC. Great drama in the triangle. It's good when NC State and Wake are strong teams in the ACC. Like those are the big 4 teams. It'd be scary, man. Will Wade knows how to coach. He's won big at 4 places. This will be his 5th head coaching job. He's a little intel there. He's married to a UNC alum. One of my fraternity brothers' sister is his wife. He comes from NC State. Seems like, but he could be waiting for Ole Miss to open.
Texas?
Or Texas opens, but Texas has been winning a lot recently. So they may, it'd be crazy to fire your coach after making the tournament like this. But there's rumors that Texas could still open despite making the tournament here. They made a little run in the tournament here.
Pitino's name is starting to circle for NC State as well, for what it's worth.
Really?
For Richard Pitino, yeah.
I haven't seen that. Yeah, Richard Pitino out of New Mexico, who was also the Minnesota coach. Minnesota is, I think, going to hire the Colorado State coach. That is, as I pull up his name here, it's like Med.
Nico Medved.
Yeah, God, good job, Mike. You're locked in. He's out of Colorado State. He also was at Furman. He's won a couple places. He's a Minnesota, Minneapolis native. So that I think is kind of done. And then you have Indiana and Iowa. And I think it's some of the same candidates there. I like Ben McCollum. He is a Drake head coach. He was at a Division II school, Missouri State, I think the last 11 years. He's been 1 year at Drake, has them to 30 wins in the tournament. He is going to get one of those jobs. I think he is a baller head coach. Drake is in Iowa, so I can see Ben McCollum going to Iowa. But if I was Indiana, I'd go after him first. Indiana also, Chris Beard's name's been mentioned from Ole Miss. I think they're a little scared of the police report with him. Brad Brannell, his name's been mentioned for Indiana. That would open up Clemson, which Will Wade is a Clemson alum. So all eyes are on Indiana and Iowa. Iowa recently opened. Indiana's been open theoretically for a couple weeks now, ever since the head coach there decided to step down.
What about
Any
Villanova?
thoughts there, Mike?
Yeah, well, we'll jump into Villanova in a second. Indiana's a tough situation, man. Like, you come into that, the expectations are super high.
Yeah.
Like, I think McCollum would be an interesting hire, but I don't think that's probably a big enough brand name for their fan base. I mean, I think they're going to want someone with a little bit more bite. Brad Brannell seems that's interesting on paper, especially if Clemson can make a decent run this tournament. I think the difficulty with these teams is the guys you want to hire are playing in the tournament. The portal opens soon, right? Like, we talk about, and I think Carolina feels it more than other fan bases, the importance of having a GM ready to go that kind of has that continuity. But I mean, I'm sure that Virginia, if they are trying to hire Ryan Odom, was hoping that VCU would lose that championship game because VCU would have been out per the committee. And
it's just like football. Go ahead. It's like football. The transfer portal is a game changer on scheduling your coaching hire. Like, the portal opens not tomorrow, but the next Monday after the first weekend of games, and then it's a free for all. And so if McNeese State makes it farther, or if Drake or VCU, there's a work already being done behind the scenes. But if your coach is not in place by then, you're going to lose out. So you may have to just kind of take a wash in the portal for the first couple of weeks. So that's where it's so important to have your coach in place. I don't think, if I was Brad Brannell, I would stay at Clemson for the rest of my life. Yeah, easy,
absolutely.
Low pressure. You can win in the ACC. You have some money there with Clemson football kind of driving the scene there. You're getting your extensions. You live in a small town. Probably have a massive house on a lake down there in northern South Carolina. So if I was him, I'd stay there. Also, Darren DeVries has been a candidate for Iowa as well. He's the first-year coach of West Virginia. And we didn't mention Villanova, which came up this weekend, like you said, Mike. I know Odom's had some interest there as well. So it's a lot of big names.
Why is NC State not going after Odom? I've just Googled this guy. He's born in Durham. He went to he was the coach at Lenore-Rhyne, which is,
it's Dave Odom's son.
Yeah.
The Wake Forest coach. So he grew up in Wake Forest and Winston-Salem. Yeah. I think he was definitely on their list. I think they're focusing on Wade.
He went to Reynolds, dude. He's a Winston guy.
Yeah.
Holy cow!
Yeah, this is a really, really important hire for NC State. This is really
cool. Oh my gosh!
Carousel cycle for all the ACC. I mean, goddamn. Excuse my language. 4 ACC bids, at least since 2013. It is because of bad coaching. They can't get good players in there. Mm-hmm. This is not good. And so we need these other teams. I don't want them to do tremendously well. I want us to do better. But we need them to do better than what they're doing. And
NC State missed the ACC tournament this year, man.
God.
Yeah.
That's horrific. It's so bad. The NC State needs to hire. Yeah, I know. NC State has to hire some guy that is the best X's and O's basketball coach that they can possibly find. They've played it under Keats. They played it under the last guy. What was his name? Gottfried. They played just the ugliest, loosest, if we get hot and make a million threes, we can beat you type of basketball. But so not fundamental. I think NC State, let's go back to basics for them. I hate to be even giving NC State advice. This is so unlike me. But it's if they want to have any chance of success in the ACC, it's you just got to hire a guy who can really just coach some basketball, man. Let's leave the other stuff out of it. Got to coach some ball.
speaking of ACC, like, yeah, you want the ACC to be good because you're seeing this
Yes.
year is your example. Like UNC and these teams couldn't find quad one wins. You need Wake to be good. Virginia and Louisville need to be good, and it helps the state to be good. Miami, Florida State, like the bigger name programs need to be good. Like you need to be getting 6, 7, 8 teams in, and so getting like a Will Wade is huge. I think Ryan Ohm's a great coach. That'd be huge if he goes to Virginia. I think Jay Lucas will have a lot of success at Miami. I'm not sure about the Florida State guy. Hasn't coached in college yet, but you're seeing this is a change in the guard right here. Leonard
Yeah.
Hamilton's gone. Roy Williams gone. Coach K, Tony Bennett gone. It's just like these are young coaches.
Only ACC coach with Final Four experience right now is our own Hubert Davis. So
Yeah, and the longest tenured coach now is Brad Brownell because it was Brad Brownell and Kevin Keats, and Keats is gone now. So, and these coaches are now younger than me,
I'm going to throw one wrinkle in for NC State, and I think this is the danger they have, right? The worst thing that could happen is you hire Will Wade, and he leaves after a season. Will Wade's dream job is not in the ACC. Will Wade wants to get to the SEC back where he was, and I think he wants that Texas job. And so the danger you have with NC State, and I think the danger of the big name hire, and again, I hate giving advice to NC State, right? Like, truly. But I think the danger you have is you go all out for him, you spend big money on him, you bring him in, you turn around for the season, you make the tournament next year, and then he's gone the following year, right? I think that's the danger you have, and then you're right back to where you were, and potentially in a worse situation. So
Yeah. I mean that's like UNC basketball, right? UNC football, right? Like if you hire a really good coach, it hasn't happened that often, but if you hire a really good coach, the fear is he leaves. But that's kind of the nature of business we're in. I would just make a huge buyout, but yeah. All right, we got anything else?
really excited that we're in the tournament, right? Like
Yeah.
I think I don't want to say that problems aren't gone. Like it's not like these problems alleviated and we're not facing a crossroads for the program. But it makes, I think, some of the changes structurally that we're trying to implement, especially with the hiring of GM and maybe pushing, Hubert to hire more staff and looking at a lot of different factors, makes it a little bit easier of a pill to swallow, knowing that you made the tournament. The more wins you can get,
Yes.
the easier this transition to a new kind of way of doing Carolina basketball. It's going to be much smoother, in my opinion. So for all the warts that this season has had and for all the difficulties behind the scenes that, I'm sure everyone has, heard whispers of and seen on social media, this is a good thing. And I think we can take the night as Carolina fans, take Monday morning as Carolina fans, and, take a deep breath, smile, and be happy about it.
No one's more happy than Hubert Davis because making the tournament, it's binary. You either make it or you miss it, and making it on that Wikipedia, on your resume, on your record looks a lot better. He's made it now. 2 of the last 3, or was it 4 out of the last, or 3 out of the last 4? That's a lot better than missing it 2 of the last 3. Spencer?
Yeah, I was going to say something similar, and like it's really important, I think, that we make the tournament from a recruiting perspective, and not so much like from a time perspective, but it's like it's going to be a hard sell for a guy to come in and be like, oh, we missed a tournament last year. Now we're calling you 3 days after the transfer portal opens. Hey, you want to come to North Carolina? And it's like, they don't have to have those conversations that are like tough. The conversation is a lot easier. We're continuing the high standard of success in North Carolina by bringing you in. We think you're worthy of this, than it is to like, oh, you're here to lift North Carolina up. Like, I don't like that mentality. I think that's not the North Carolina mentality at all. Like, there's no lifting up this program. It's lifted, or at least in theory it should be, So again, I think it makes a lot of recruiting and a lot of transfer portal conversations a lot easier over the next few months that like we've made the tournament. And, again, like we still have to take care of business. It can be that conversation, I think, on the negative side is the same if we lose on Tuesday night. It's like, it's kind of doesn't even matter if you made the tournament if you lose, So
winning the play-in
again, I think we're riding a fair amount. We're riding a fair amount of momentum. We've shown that we can win some games. We've shown that we can play some really good basketball. Van Allen-Lubin's playing great. Cadeau has his moments where, as you were alluding to earlier, I think maybe he might be better off leaving the ball in some other folks' hands. But,
Yeah.
again, this team is in a good spot right now. It's in a good spot as it could be, honestly. So we've just got to go out and take care of some business, man.
All right. Best, give me a take about being engaged. Fiance podcast, quickly. Wedding planning podcast. Mike, when is your wedding?
Wedding is April 18th, 2026. So,
dude, that's my exact wedding date.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's wild, dude.
That's funny.
That is crazy, man.
That's crazy. I know, Spencer, you're getting married in December.
Yeah, I'm getting married New Year's Eve this coming year. We're getting married in Carolina Inn, Chapel Hill.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, dude.
Carolina.
All right, Mike, give me getting a wedding plan. So you're very slow. I mean, this is a very slow process. So more than a year away.
My fiance works, tangential to event planning. She works in professional golf. So event planning is her bread and butter, and this was not going to be something that she was not going to have her hands on. Generally speaking, when you're asked a decision, hot take, when you're asked a decision about what your preference is for a variety of different things, give your opinion. Strong opinions loosely held. Give your opinion, see what the feedback is, and then opt with your fiance's opinion because that's the right one.
Yeah, Spencer, you're probably. I know you're pretty much planned out probably now. Probably some stuff to do.
I mean, the next thing we got to do is start tasting food and pick a cake and I don't know. We've got pretty much everything lined up. Got the rehearsal venue, we got the dadgum flower vendor, we got photographer, we got everything all set up, so our next real thing is just getting down to Chapel Hill and trying some food, man.
What are you wearing? What are you wearing for your wedding?
We're doing black ties. It's New Year's Eve, so tuxedo. We might spice it up with a white dinner jacket or something. Keep the rest of the groomsmen in a black tux, but straightforward, Mike. Classic.
What are you wearing, Mike?
Dusty blue suit with a blue tie, I think. A little blue.
Nice. I haven't really thought that far ahead. Probably just a suit, navy blue suit.
Whatever Vicky tells you.
Yeah. I agree.
I'm getting married outside. I'm getting married outside Richmond, man. Maidens, Virginia. Oh. Yeah. So not far from you.
Cool.
I've been to a wedding in Charlottesville. That's a great place to get married too. We're doing it in downtown Greensboro.
Nice.
Yeah, like 10 minutes from where we live. We did our first food tasting today. I like everything. I am not picky on food, so I was like, dude, well, I can say whatever I want, but it's whatever you want. Yeah. With food, I'll eat anything. So it's sweet though. It was bizarre. You just walk in, it's open bar, all you can eat food. I was like, this is crazy. And you just do. We're gonna do a couple more too. All right. Maybe next time we're on, we'll dive deeper into wedding planning and being engaged to be married. But guys, appreciate your time. Appreciate Neil, Mike, and Spencer. It's a good podcast. Mike, good to have you back in the basketball fold. I think it's been a month or two since we've had you on. Spencer, always good. UNC Tuesday. We're dancing. We're excited about it. We'll talk to you next time, guys.